Welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them in your everyday cosplays. Hello, Billy.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, good.
Back at it again.
Back at it. Oh my gosh. Um, so I have been thinking so much about some of my character cosplays because there are a number of events coming up, one of
Right,
which is HelsaCon 2025, which I'm about to get my pass for in Orlando in October. And my good friend Ian Grayson and I are teaming up again. I like for another hey, what could our characters be doing? Why are they on Batu?
right.
And then we're
And
looking at using our RPG characters, so our different characters, and talking
nice.
about how to flesh those out.
And hopefully you'll report back, like you
Hmm.
did last year and we can take a look at some of the amazing costumes that you'll see then
Absolutely
later in the
will,
year.
for sure. I'm excited for that. But it's very much like this adding texture topic is very much in our conversation in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
It's literally what we're talking about.
I've been talking to a lot of people about this. I got into this sort of became get your bingo cards ready. This became a joke on in the chat where Liam has become the third host of Rock Rebellion because we mentioned him so many times, and I think it's because you're working,
Yeah, Liam on here.
you're actively working on a
Yes,
Mandalorian character
my
with
Mando.
him, and
Yes.
I'm just always in his DMs telling
Yes.
him he's great. So
I know. We gotta get Liam on. I can't believe we haven't had him on yet. So yes.
I don't take it lightly that a customer of that level will send me a DM and say, "Hey, what do you
Yeah.
think about this? Like, what
Yeah.
can I do? What can I add?" So we were talking about stuff, and this is something that I had been thinking about, but we were talking about it back and forth, and it's it's adding texture, right? So what I mean by texture isn't like a pleated sleeve or a waffle, fabric. What I mean is like the texture of life, right? The
Mhm.
things that we carry. I was thinking about like what it means to be me here on earth. Like what does my keychain look like?
Yeah.
What are like my shoes like? How do I tie them? Do I wear a scarf in the winter or do I just go with a hat? Um am I partial to jewelry? Does that jewelry mean anything to me? Is it something passed down? Is it something my wife gave me? Do I
Yeah.
things of that nature? And I feel like that really makes and grounds a person, and in this case a character.
Yeah.
And I always think about it, and I've been wanting to fold in even more of these kinds of things. So when he came to me and he was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I was like, "Oh my god, it's amazing. What do you mean?" And he's like, "What else can I add?" I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, his character is sort of an explorer, a ranger." I was like, maybe this person on his travels like collects things. Maybe
Mhm.
they went to a certain planet. Maybe they have I don't know. I was like, have they been to a swamp? Maybe they have tufts of reeds
Yeah.
like tucked into their pack or their belt, or they've collected some bone or some teeth or something, right? There's so much
You're
of that that
describing
like
me.
yeah, that there's so much of that that I think can be added. And I had done a post on Instagram, one of my little style guide things that I don't know what I was on. I didn't even really like say like, "Hey, look at this that I found." I literally just wrote a story about like
Yeah.
this is what I'm thinking about and I need to get out of my brain. And I think it could be as simple as like a scrap of fabric. Like, did
Yeah.
that belong to a friend that has fallen in battle? Like
Yes.
those kinds of things. Anyway.
Totally. Oh, no, exactly. This has been so heavy on my mind because Ian and I are talking about our characters from RPG, which is so interesting having these characters in this game because they continuously evolve, right?
Mhm.
And we're trying to know them better on a on
Yeah.
a certain level. Like as I've been playing Sana Vera, I'm like, oh wow, I wanted her to be like this, but I think she's more like this,
Mhm.
and so it's and also feedback. from, you know, uh, Zach Eskrin is our DM, and he'll
Mhm.
like, I kind of feel like you need to play her like this, or even like, Ian and I, our characters, kind of the way because Liam is one of our group, and Ikne Bob, Sean is another person,
Mhm.
and then we've had Parade Rainer slide in as our fifth, and so we kind of our characters kind of paired up almost in the way that their stories were aligned. Um, and so I think we've been learning more about our characters as we like learn about the other one. And so
Right.
definitely we're talking about, and so we're like, oh, we should we should wear them on Batu this next October,
Yeah.
because we'd like to get photos together, and we're like, oh, we're gonna be together, and he was definitely pointing out, he's like, I think you need to add more, because the topic is how do I not melt in Leku in
Right.
October in Orlando, which I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm going to try it. Um, and he was like, I think you need to add more something like culturally representative of her,
Mhm.
right? Like she's not
Yes.
long off of her home planet. Like she doesn't know much of the galaxy. Like, how do you portray that? And I don't know the answer to that yet, but it's like we've
Mhm.
definitely been thinking, and then him with his character being like, he doesn't stay any place long, but maybe he does take mementos that he doesn't mean to be mementos, but they're kind of absent-minded. Like he keeps,
Yes.
I don't know if there's bottle caps in Star Wars, but he's like, maybe he keeps a bottle cap from a really great beer that he had. Like maybe
Yes.
he collects these little tchotchkes, and he's like, like you were when you were a kid and you collected sticks and bones. I'm like, it's real cute that you thought I only did that as a kid because I still do that.
I've been
I'm like, yeah, like what would your character collect? Like
just as a
what?
sidebar, there's a stick that I'm looking at that's on it's on my walk.
No, when
It's
they're
on
a
my
great
walk
stick.
to the supermarket, Sainsbury, shout out Sainsbury, other markets are available. Um, there's a stick that's like, I think it's like a fallen, sort of small-ish, medium branch. It would be perfect
Okay.
for like a staff. I'm not entirely sure if it's attached or not. It's in a sort of
You don't
it's
wanna,
in a
like,
sort of
be
like,
pulling on
yeah,
it.
it's in a sort of bramble of a mess. So where I kind of have to like hop up really quick. It's a very sort of secluded area. So I
Okay,
think I have to
okay.
go with like a small saw and some like time. And I think I'm
And
gonna do it.
maybe at dusk when no one's
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But anyway, yeah, it's funny that, yeah, yeah, sure. When I was a kid,
yeah,
yeah,
when I was
that's
a
right.
kid, that was
Yeah.
the only time I did that. Yes, I've got that big one. I did that Viking witch,
Yes.
look for Ren
The
Fair, and
driftwood.
luckily I found that in a remote lake when I was on vacation with a lot of friends, but I mean, I came up from the beach with that thing, and it was like, "Look at my stick!" They're all like, nice stick, Kate. Yeah, and I was like, I guess like our one friend was like, your face was just lit up. I was like, I've been looking for this stick my entire life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. That's yep. That I mean, I completely understand. I relate.
This is why
Had
we're
I
safe
been yeah,
family.
had I been there, I would have been like, "I can't believe you
You're
found
like,
that.
I'm
That's
jealous. I gotta
amazing.
go.
That's an
You gotta help me
amazing
find
steak.
one.
Where'd you find it? I'm going back to see if there's another one."
Oh
So,
my gosh,
yeah, it's
Lily,
funny
I
that you
love
say that
you.
because 'cause I'm like, I'm eyeing one, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I hope it doesn't get dragged away. It's a little piece of, yeah,
Stay
anyway, it's an
siblings.
unused piece of, like, yeah, thing, so
I hope you get the stick. I'm gonna be
I'm
messaging
gonna
you like
get it.
every day, be like, if you've got the stick yet.
I'll take a video of a
Okay.
steak, I'll send it to you. I'm
Oh my
But
god.
these are no, no,
Woo.
no, but you're absolutely right because, like, I
Yeah.
was thinking about this and I was thinking of, like, little mementos, little
Mhm.
totems, I
Yeah,
was calling them. So something like bottle caps
yeah.
would be perfect.
Or even
Every time
something. Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
every time that I go away, with my wife to some exotic location,
Yes.
she loves an
Where they
exotic
bring you the
location,
drinks.
right?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. She loves an exotic location, she loves to travel, which is great, right? And out of every one of our, like, big trips, I've brought back something that stays in my little, like, barrel, that little leather,
Oh,
like,
yes.
small, tiny duffel. That's what's in there. Well,
Okay.
in one of the
Oh, I
pockets,
love it.
it has, like, a little tiny trinket. One of them is a 1 inch by 1 inch tile of a pool, of a swimming pool that was, like, loose, and I was like, "Well, this is coming
That's
home with
coming
me."
home.
Um, when we
Going
went to the Gran Canaria, which is a volcanic, which are volcanic islands, I took a little tiny volcanic rock
yes,
home with me, so that's
yeah,
in there. All very tiny things,
yeah,
a seashell from here, a this from that, or that from there, right?
yeah,
And that's what kind of like was also making me think like these are the things that we like collect and then hold as like these totems, these
yeah,
talismans, these like
absolutely.
memories,
Yes,
to recall these
absolutely.
places. Yeah, and I
Yes,
think that aside from just useful things like a blaster or a tool or a prop of some sort of binoculars or any kind of like things like that, those are great things to add to your
yeah,
character. I think also
yeah,
we should all be thinking about these more sentimental things. These
yeah,
people are real. Sometimes they're this is what I wrote in my thing. Sometimes they're separated from friends and family for long
mhm,
periods of time. Like,
mhm,
why would they not have a reminder, a
yeah,
memento,
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's so ingrained in humankind, and we're gonna expand
Mhm.
that to be aliens as well in Star Wars, but
Yeah.
I think it's so ingrained in us, it like taking a memento from something goes back eons. It has to go back to when it was literally just rocks, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's so and keeping something from someone who's gone, a lock of their hair, a scrap of their fabric.
Mhm.
I've got my grandpa's old shirts that I'm still planning to make a
Mhm.
quilt out of them someday.
Mhm.
And a tablecloth that was my grandmother's, like it's like we have held on to these sorts of things for eons and it fleshes you out. Or,
I think
one
so.
thing I was gonna say is even the mundane. Like,
Yeah.
my mom has this habit of she's realized that she really walks, like, looking down a lot, which I
Okay.
might too because I find a lot I have a soft spot for rusty washers because they remind me of my grandfather's workbench, which is still in the garage or in
Right.
the machine shed at the farm, where it's like he worked, my dad worked, my uncle works there now. So that's why I started collecting these rusty washers. They're such a like trigger for me. Like I hold them
Yeah.
so dear. And and so like I do find a lot of those on the ground. My mom is constantly counting the change that she's found in a year.
Okay.
She like
Oh,
she's like,
nice.
I found 26 pennies or whatever. Or like even are you a type of person there's a grocery store that I go to where you have to show your receipt on the way out the door because they've
Yeah.
got a lot of shoplifting issues, whatever. Um, I'm constantly realizing that I have 5 receipts from the different grocery in my bag all the time.
Yeah.
Like, are you the type of person that like leaves your receipt in your pocket or leaves it in your grocery bag or actually throws it out? Like these things that
Right.
might be in your pocket. That if somebody's like, what do you have on you right now? Like, yeah, like even something so mundane as a receipt or a rock or a penny.
And these are the things that, like, I think are can almost go unnoticed, maybe even unseen. Maybe they're tucked into a pouch that you have in your belt or something like that, but it's in there, it's in there, it's grounding the character, it's grounding, if anyone were to say, like, "What's in your pockets?" Then you
Yeah,
could say, like, "That is part of it. I've got all
yeah,
these, like, receipts. I've got all these, like"
yeah, yeah,
that's all part of it. It's Ali Sheedy
absolutely.
dumping her purse onto the
Yeah,
in Breakfast Club, like, everything has a meaning
yeah.
and a yeah.
It actually might
It
be
might not have
something.
a purpose, but, you know?
Yeah, it might be some challenge we start with our friends of like,
Yeah.
what's in your pouch?
Yeah.
Like that's a photographic like work right there is like dumping
Yeah.
out your character's stuff and like taking a photo of it. Like it
Yeah.
helps tell them. And where you are wearing it. Like if it is up my table, like if it is like a necklace that they always wear or something like that, or something wrapped in their hair or wrap one thing because I need to dive more into the Twilight culture, but I know that a lot of them sometimes there's a wrap
Mhm.
around their around a leku or both leku. I know that tattooing is a thing. You got to get special leku to have the tattoos, but
Oh, right, right.
like even just a wrap around it is something I considered. So yeah, like what?
Yeah.
And we even talked about because we're joking about like being the versions of like Beach Barbie, Beach Ken, like because they're going to be on Vatu, which is this really warm planet, whereas they're like constantly traveling through space, and we're like, we've got to change their looks, and
Yeah.
how do we do that? And if she had just landed on Batu, she's never been there before. Like she's got boots. Is there somebody selling, some like leather thong sandals? And she's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna buy a pair of those with my like, the money I made off our last job because I don't want to be walking around with these clunky things. Like, would she be like Kaylee in Firefly and she like rolls her, cuffs her the
Right.
the pant leg of her jumpsuit, or would she be like, no, 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 there's this like, I was joking, I'm like, like you go to Daytona Beach and there's a million swim shops, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if you fly down to Daytona and you didn't have any of that stuff, you go to that shop and you buy a bathing suit and a sun hat and a sarong and like, right? Like, would she be the character that does that?
Right.
Um, so it's that other level. How would this character, carry themselves every day and then transfer that to even a slightly, oh, I'm out of my element. How am I going to play this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a fascinating thing to think about the multi facets of these characters.
I think it's really fun to sort of get into those kinds of storylines in order to inform a costume, which then it's the character informing the costume because of the situation that they're in. When I did that shoot with Krios,
Yes,
Burgundy 2,
yes.
um,
Hello.
we he had scouted this amazing location. We went, I mean, at dawn. Like he
Yes.
was there before me, but like I came through with the coffee. But we got there like at dawn. The sun was still rising, um, and but the day before we had like a quick little like half hour meeting. I met him at his hotel, and he was like, oh, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. These are the colors that I'm thinking. Can you pull something together like this, that, and the third? And it was because he had this idea for going to this planet called Dalna, and the people on Dalna wear like these blues, and
Oh,
that's because there's a dye that they use from one of the agricultural sort of things,
yeah,
berries or fruits that are native to and are on that planet. So then we were like, okay, so we're on a mission. Burgundy 1 and 2, we need to get into this planet. We need to not be seen. We need to
yeah,
blend in with the locals, like business as usual, same old song and dance, like blend in, don't
yeah,
get seen, um, and get to where we need to go, right? But it was really fun to like then change that up because it was something that was familiar. Obviously, it's all my clothes.
yeah, yeah,
It's familiar to me, but I sort of put something together that maybe colors I wouldn't have normally put
yeah,
together and to
yeah.
do it,
I love that.
those blues and whatnot. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that we see this in universe. We see this in the movies, and I'm wondering if you can remember of any more. But like I
Mm,
had clocked like Han Solo's dice. Like
mhm.
that is something that he carries with him. That is something that is always on the rear view mirror
Yes,
of
yes,
the Falcon.
right?
Um which is
Oh,
something that is done. It's in the Outlaws game that there's
yeah,
like a trinket that you can put on the cockpit of your ship. Like that's sort of a thing that's established. Also
mhm.
things like Jin Urso's necklace with
Yes,
the kyber crystal that her
yeah,
mother gave her. Like
yeah,
um are there
yeah.
any things like that that you can remember?
Nemec's manifesto.
Oh my god.
I mean, like, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love. I mean, obviously, I love what came out of Nemec's manifesto in
Yeah.
Andor, but just the fact that that was something on his person in the movie that
Mhm.
we knew nothing about, and then it
Mhm.
became such a pivotal moment in the entire universe. Like, I get chills when I think about it, like, who wrote this?
That's
Because they deserve some sort of an award. Oh my
Tony
god.
Gilroy.
Is
Um
that was it his idea or like who on
Well,
the team was
I
like,
don't know.
"You
Yeah,
know
who
what? He's gonna have this thing." Was it planned the whole way? Somebody at Lucasfilm, please call me and explain this to me. It's like,
I have a
"Was
feeling it
Rogue
was
One?"
retrofit
Then
it.
that's the thing, and that's the
Yeah,
greatest. Like, if it was, I'm like, "Oh my god, you deserve so much accolades
because
for like, what?"
what was a prop then
Yes,
became a
became
memento,
it be yeah,
you
it
know?
became so it's it's a relic. It's like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it is a historical artifact is what that is,
yeah,
but and that's I love that. But you're right, like, the dice, the necklace, all of those little things, really tell these backstories, and I love it. Ugh,
Yeah, it just I don't know. I
super
feel
fun.
like it can soften a character
Mhm.
that is hard.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
Wrecker's Tuca doll, his
Yes.
little he's got a
Yeah.
little like doll, like
Yep.
and
Mhm.
he's the biggest, baddest like
Totally,
of
totally.
the Bad Batch,
Yeah.
he's a tank. He's literally like a
Yeah.
tank. And so yeah, it can soften a very strong, very big, very tank-like character, and it could also sort of just give deeper meaning to, I don't know, someone that's I don't know, maybe quieter, that
Mhm.
their rage and their fury can come from maybe loss, and that's like a scrap of fabric that they have
Yes.
hanging from their belt, and no one even
Yes.
knows what that is.
Absolutely, yes. Or
Yeah.
one thing I was thinking of, Sana, is maybe she does have. I mean, because Ryloth is kind of a warm environment, isn't it? Maybe she's got like a pair of like cut off linen pants that she wore on the farm, and
Yeah.
they're patched. They're patched with different fabrics. Because I used to
Yes.
have. I regret getting rid of these so much, but they were a pair of jeans I loved my senior year of high school, and I wore them to death. They were like 100% cotton, American Eagle, you know, a mid rise. They like boot cut. They were
The rise.
perfect, you
Yeah.
guys, perfect. And I wore them to death, and the front just became so worn, and I ended up patching them, and I used a bunch of scrap fabric. I think I used a couple of ties I found at Goodwill. I think I used some like scrap fabric that my mom never used because she doesn't like sewing, but she tried it a few times, right? Like,
Right.
and then
Right,
so
right,
the
right.
entire front was just covered in these patches. And eventually, went to college, put on weight, got rid of them. They would fit me now, and it kills me that I don't have these pants. I'm like, oh my god, I need to make another pair. But I was like, maybe she might have something like that where it was like, yeah, she's a farm kid. Their favorite pair of pants, like she might patch those. I think yeah, fabric could be an easy one in that sense, or even like even some sort of little scrap fabric neckerchief that your character just
Yeah.
ties around. Or there's one thing that I think I got it kind of from like Chris Red Cup Apparel, who does
Mm.
multiple genres, but definitely Star Wars is one of the stuff that
Incredible.
he does. But for pirate looks, it's like it's just a scrap of
Mhm.
fabric wrapped around the wrist, and I'll do that
Oh,
now
you
with a lot of
love
my
that,
Star Wars
yeah.
looks
What
to cover my watch, because
Oh,
like if I
nice.
forget, because I can't find I've made a nicer. I'm like looking all around my room. I've made I've made a Swarzy cover, but sometimes I can't find it, or sometimes I
Right.
forget it. And so I love that, just a scrap of linen, and
Yep.
it doesn't have to be nice. You can over dye it. You can really grody it up. But I do, and so I do it in my like everyday life now because I just like the look. But yeah, it
Yeah.
could be something.
It
Like
could
clearly
also
I
yeah,
got the idea from a friend. Your character could
yeah.
have gotten the idea from a friend, right? It could be
Yeah,
something.
yeah. And it'll sort of break up some lines too, and
Yeah.
it'll, like, physically add texture to a costume because you're adding these little sort of details that sometimes are missed, but closer inspection,
Yeah.
like, they're there. Like you had mentioned when I put this post up, that tiny little scrap of fabric still from the
Yes.
same pants. I'm telling you, I
Yes.
used every scrap of fabric
So
of the
impressed.
like, they live on to this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And it's a teeny tiny
Yeah.
one that goes across, on the belt that goes across my chest for
Mhm.
my shoulder armor. The teeny tiny little scrap that I put on there because the strap itself is just brown cotton webbing.
Mhm.
So it's like it needed something to like
Mhm.
break it up,
Yeah, yeah,
And then I was thinking about those things and something that I mean the royal you, all of you listening, like if you add something like that to break up, that could become a story point.
yes,
That's all
exactly.
I'm
Like
saying. It's
like
easy.
Nemec's manifesto was
Yeah,
probably not originally.
yeah,
Someday I'm going to meet somebody that can explain that to me, but
yeah,
this is what
yeah,
keeps me up at night. Um, but yeah, absolutely, it can be a jumping point for you to be like, oh, hold on, maybe the scrap of fabric was from this significant, event or person or whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I know we do talk about like the layers of a costume a lot, but you're right, like the texture of it is
Hmm.
like these little crosshatches in your life, right?
Yeah.
I
I
love
think
it.
sometimes some of those things are for like when I bake them into a costume, like they're for me. you
Mhm.
know? It's like
Yeah,
weathering the backside of something, like the backside of a belt buckle, like, no one's
yes,
gonna see that, but I
yeah,
know that it's there,
right,
um, and I use that as a weird example, but, like, I know that it's there, so
great.
it just kind of puts me more
Yeah,
in the mood if
yeah,
everything that I touch and feel feels, like, genuine to that
yeah,
character, you know?
yeah, totally.
Um, yeah. I wear Maddox wears these, like, broken rank badges, imperial rank
Yes,
badges on his belt,
we
like,
talked about those. Yeah, yeah,
that's,
Ian and I were talking about
big
that.
part of the story.
We're like, what could be our equivalent of that for our characters to make
Yeah.
them feel more real and more
And that's yeah, that has no purpose, like, the
yeah,
costume would be exactly the same without it. I have
mhm.
sometimes forgotten them and
Yes,
not worn them, you
yeah.
know?
Well,
Sometimes
that's
they're not appropriate for the
yeah,
setting or whatever, but,
yeah,
like, when I do remember, it's a big story beat for him.
mhm,
That's a big part of his life and who he is and how
yeah,
he became who he was, so, like,
yeah,
very early on, I was like, "I gotta get these. This is part of the story." Yeah.
yeah, totally, I love that. Oh, man, so much to think about.
I
Yes, so
know,
many
it's so fun.
I know. I like how deep you can get into a character's backstory and a character's look, and you can combine them together and have
Yeah,
them work off each other.
yeah.
Super cool.
A bag of seeds. Look out that notebook that I
Ooh,
made that notebook that I made for, part of
yes,
the Liam project.
yes, yes. I still
That's gonna
haven't seen
live
that, I feel
that's
like,
gonna
but
live. I'm
I know
sure that's gonna live in a pouch, but
oh,
I
yeah.
felt like
Oh, but I will be pulling that out. I will be
but I felt like that, when he was
Yes,
talking to me about it, and he was like, "Could you do something like this?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." It
yeah.
fits, you know?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
to kind of explain a little bit for folks, so the Mando character that Liam created and then handed to me is an herbalist, and
Mhm,
then Liam reached out to Billy to say, "Hey, you've done bookbinding. Can you
mhm.
make a field notebook for this
Yeah,
herbalist?" Um, because yeah, her thing is she's climbing through the mountains and the woods and like definitely like Liam put specific scrapes and things like that on her helmet. Cause I'm like, oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, she forgets to duck when she walks under like a fallen tree for sure. She's like, and the clothing I'm gonna make will be like weathered up and yeah, she's
Yeah.
always out
Or
in the out in the woods.
trying to reach a certain, like, herb or something or,
Yes.
a
Oh,
leaf of a
totally.
plant and kind of
Oh
can't
yeah.
reach it and it's, like, scraping up under a
Yeah.
log or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all the
Totally.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. So
Yeah.
So, yeah, so let us know your like, I'm curious to know what people have added to their character stories and their characters' looks and combine them. Which came first for you? Were you
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I've got this part of the story and what do I represent that with?" Or did you have this item that you found, you're like, "Oh, this goes," and then you made a story? So let me know because 'cause I'm curious.
It works either way. Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
came first, the porg or the egg?
That's the name of the that's the name of the
That's the name of the
episode.
episode, Raimi.
But yeah, I think that's, yeah, if you have anything out there, be sure to message us over,
Yeah, please
uh,
do. Yeah,
either of us.
yeah, yeah, either of us or jointly at the podcast
Yeah.
sometime.
I think that brings us to a close.
I
So,
know.
Kate, where can they find you on the
They can
interwebs?
find me on Instagram at One Scavenger's Wardrobe. Come say hi. Tell me your story.
And I'm at Billy Maddox, always on Instagram. I'm always there. So send me a message whenever. Time zones. I'm up late.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, thanks so much to the Dad Batch for having us on their family of shows, and also to Raimi, who's always in the background, being an amazing producer, putting up with us. And remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now.